of What's Bruin here on 6342 Productions. This is a special bonus show for the Bruins winning last night, extending the series against the Panthers. As always, I am your host, Chris Nozick, joined by my illustrious co-host, Dominic Tiano. Dom, how you feeling after that win last night?
Well, regardless of the game, I'm supposed to be at the Knights game watching them win the championship. So I got it on the TV here because you promised me cookies tonight, and I'll do anything for cookies. So,
Apparently, even over these.
yeah. How am I feeling after the win? A lot better than I was before. A lot of good things to like about last night. Still some things to work on. Um, if I may, to start, Chris, is I spoke to a couple of goaltending coaches to break down Sergei Bobrovsky.
Okay.
Okay. And part of Bob Essenza's job is not just to work with Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, but to study the opposition goaltending. Excuse me. Find the weaknesses, how to beat them. And I think when a goalie is letting in a goal every 10 shots, less than 10 shots, that you've got to put more pucks on net. And they did last night, but they're still missing glorious opportunities.
I would agree with that. Yeah. It's I mean, a lot of good things in the game last night, obviously. No most importantly, they got the win. Jeremy Swayman looked fantastic, but I mean, is it just me or do they seem to be able to beat Bob glove side frequently? I mean, really,
I think the thing to
anything
do is go high on him.
I was just going to say, anything elevated seems to not be reading well.
Yeah. There have been exceptions. Like Geeky's goal last night was a thing of beauty. The patience he showed, absolutely amazing. But then you have the McAvoy goal, and it's just the way Bob plays. He's down a lot. Not only is he down, but he's hunched forward, to use a lack of a better term. So there's a lot of openings up top on him.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen and noticed that before. He's beatable. Once you elevate the puck, he's pretty beatable. And now, gotta ask, what did you think of McAvoy's goal? Do you think it was goaltender interference?
No. And here's the thing. Here's how I'll explain it. Bobrovsky thought it was goaltender interference, not because of the contact to the skate, because, and I'll touch more on this afterwards when it gets to review, because he had time to reset. Okay, what he thought the interference was the stick being knocked out of his hand. And it was his own player who knocked the stick out of his hand. It wasn't. Was it Heinen?
Heinen was the one with the net front battle.
Yeah.
Heinen's foot, I think it was his foot, made contact with Bobrovsky's skate. But there is a clear-cut moment where you can see Bobrovsky resets, and he's square to the shot before the shot is taken. And then, like you said, his stick gets moved, but that is not by Danton Heinen.
Right.
Now,
but Bobrovsky thought the interference was by Heinen knocking the stick out, not the skate. What Maurice actually challenged, I don't know. Did he challenge the contact, or did he challenge the stick? Because clearly it shows their own player knocked the stick out of Bob's hand.
Yeah, and this one was regardless, closer to a gray area, as they would say, than the Coyle incident 2 games ago.
Right.
Because that one is clear, black and white in the rule book. You push the defenseman into the goaltender, the defending player into the goaltender. If it results in a goal, it will be wiped off. That is black and white
but
in the rule book. So
we covered that one last night. No sense in dwelling on that one.
no, I'm just saying for all the there. I think it was Paul Bissonnette sent out a tweet basically saying, "Okay, can we call it even now?" It's like, well, on that one, yeah, sure, they both were allowed to stand, but we're not even because of the cheap shot and some of the other crap. But whatever.
Yeah.
This one though, I could have. I was worried it was coming off the board when I saw
I
them.
wasn't. I wasn't.
I was
Because when you
worried.
clearly look at the replay after contact, Bob lifts his skate, replants it, and is set and square for the shot. Then the stick gets knocked out, and
I
it
agree.
wasn't Heinen that knocked out the stick.
I
So
agree. When I saw
was he interfered with? Yes, but he had time to reset. He had time to make the save.
and I think
What
he got
cost him the save? What cost him the save is the stick, and that was not Heinen's doing.
no, and I think
To
he
me,
dropped it a little lightly. I feel like he got a little bit of a looser grip once he realized that someone was in around the skate area. And once he felt it, he just kind of was like, well, if I drop it, I might be able to get away with one here. But yeah, once I saw the replay, I became Leonardo DiCaprio in that meme, standing up, pointing at the TV. Like, I was like, that should stand. But just, it didn't feel, it felt like something that just wasn't going to go the Bruins' way because why would it? Nothing has till this point. But I wholeheartedly saw the same thing. And I was like, that should stand. And I'm so glad that it did.
no, I knew it would. And the longer it took the referees to decide, the more obvious it became to me that it was going to stand.
I saw it and I was like, that needs to stand. But the longer it took, the more worried I was like, I think they're debating whether they should or shouldn't overturn it, which worried me. But again,
No, I think they were. I think they were making absolutely sure that Bob was reset. I think they were taking their time on that, and then being positive it wasn't Heinen who knocked the stick out. So the longer it went, the more confident I became.
Yeah, let's see. Matt jumps in here and he says, do we think that it only stood because they see it as a makeup call? No, I don't think so.
No.
I think it has the optics of a makeup call because they know they butchered the other one. I will say this, though. Both explanations from the league are atrocious. The explanation that they sent forth to the broadcast team for this one was, yep, we confirmed there was no goaltender interference. So that's it. Like, okay. He challenged for goaltender interference. Like you said, did he challenge because of the stick? Did he challenge because of the contact with the skate? Is he able to just essentially throw the flag and go, oh, you find it, but I think it's there and leave it up to them to find? Like, what happened here? And then what part your explanation I think is perfect. And where was that? It was deemed that the goaltender had time to reset. Why wasn't that in the explanation? Like, there's a bigger problem here, and it's not just the call. The rule is gray area in some ways, but it also isn't. Like, it's weird. It's like it when you see it, but it's got to be so egregious for them to call it on the ice and then overturn it and say it wasn't. And the line is so thick of you have to be absolutely certain that there's enough evidence to overturn the call. So I think that's what played into it for both of them, where they looked at it and said, is this enough to overturn it? And they were just wrong on the first one.
There was no evidence to overturn it.
Right.
No evidence.
Not on this one, at least. So,
so there was no makeup call. It was the call to make, the correct call.
And what did you think of the embellishment call finally being made?
Look, a lot of people are complaining that how can you have a cross check or a slash or a trip and an embellishment on the same play. It's possible. You can still cross check a guy illegally and have that guy embellish it.
Yep.
And it's 2 penalties. I just can't understand how some people can't comprehend that. You break the rule, it's a cross check, but the guy breaks the rule and dives.
Right. It's not that complicated. I don't know why people don't understand that.
Yeah, you
It's
can
not
have
like
2 infractions on the same play
right,
easily.
and it's not like someone just kind of pushes you in a scrum, kind of just gently from the shoulder, kind of pushing someone away, and then they just kind of pretend and fall on their ass and try to like that's one penalty of embellishment. Like that's easy to understand, but if you cross check someone, you still cross check them whether they went down
Yep.
easily or not, whether they embellished it or not. That's you still did it. Your
Yep.
penalty still happened too. So, I thought it was the right call.
I thought it was too.
I feel like there was some conversation with the officiating teams, with probably some of the Panthers to say, all right, we've called it. We're looking for it now. And next time, maybe only your guy's going. Like as the series goes deeper, I have a feeling embellishment is one to watch out for. So,
Or you'll see less of it. Here's a question I've been dying to ask you. What do you think of Swayman basically guaranteeing victory? Well, he did guarantee victory.
In the sense of, I love the confidence. Real quick, Matt jumping in saying, I'm so glad they finally got called for embellishment. Lundell has been like an Olympic diver all series. I love the confidence in Swayman. I think he's got the determination and most importantly, the skill to do his part to get them a win. I mean, he gave up 1 goal. What more can he do? They're not giving him goal support over the course of these playoffs. And the games that he has given up and he's been dinged for 6 goals for, the team in front of him has given up. And really, once it got to 3, you could make the case that, half the goals weren't even remotely close and he's been hung out to dry. So of those 12 goals in 2 games, I think it was, really less than half of them were on him. He's not giving up goals where you sit there and go, oh man, you really should have had that. Well, maybe last night because he didn't squeeze the glove and freeze the puck or hold on to it on that goal. But I mean, he's not perfect.
His glove did not look good last night.
It just seemed a little off. I think the extra day of rest between games is going to do him a little bit of good. I still think you got to go to him in Game 6. You can't move away.
Oh yeah, you're not changing now. And the save at the end.
Oh my God.
Different than we talked about it a bit last show on the first goal he gave up in Game 4. He wasn't there. He wasn't against his post. He didn't get down in his reverse VH. But last night, all in one motion, he was down in his reverse VH, came across the net, up against his post, and shut it right down.
Oh yeah. It almost seems like he's getting better as they keep going deeper. It's just, again, there's a couple blips on the radar that make you sit there and go, what the fuck happened here? But if you actually watch those games, you go, oh, he was still on fire. The team in front of him just shut down.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like the rest of the team had their controller unplugged from the video game and everybody just stopped. And he was the only one still playing. And I mean, the further they go, the more he is got to be considered for the Conn Smythe. He's got to get him through this round first, obviously.
Well, to get considered for the Conn Smythe, he has to get through the next round too.
Yeah. The way he's playing, I'd love to see this team go up against New York That'll be a hell of a series.
Carolina, you mean?
No, New York. I think New York is going to close it out. I don't think Carolina's coming back. I think they dug themselves too deep a hole.
I told you they were going to win the last one.
Yeah, I just they got to win. They have to win 4 in a row, and I just don't see them doing that with this Rangers. I don't see the Rangers team blowing 4 games in a row.
Story for another day.
Yeah. I mean, either way, though, again, another Boston Carolina matchup in the conference final. Tell me where we've seen that before.
Oh, we have.
Mm-hmm. And to do something special this year, it would be a path through Toronto, through last year's Panthers team that walloped you, and then Carolina, which has been a hurdle for you so many times in the past, and then you're in the final, and then all bets are off at that point. I mean, not really. You're probably going against Dallas, but that you'll need help with that one. But they pull it out.
We're getting way too far ahead. Way too far ahead of ourselves.
We got to get to Friday first.
Yeah, and then beyond that.
They've got to come out again firing. I mean, what were the shots in the first period? Like 12-4?
I think the official was 13-4.
13-4.
They made some subtle adjustments in their forecheck, in their breakout. I think they're trying to stretch the breakout and going for. They're going D to center, as opposed to having the wingers come back. I mean, the wingers still coming back, but they're bypassing that, and going for somebody at the red line, which backs off the forecheckers a bit. And then in the forecheck, they're going basically 1-2-2, but F2 is kind of trying. F1 is trying to force them to one side, to come up one wall. F2 tries to close off that wall, and F3 is coming in diagonally in support. We saw a lot of that in the first period, a little bit of it in the second, and then in the third period, it just disappeared.
Yeah. One of the big lineup adjustments, too, was seeing Pavel Zacha get bumped down to the third line. I'm trying to pull up what the lines were. You had Heinen, Coyle, and Frederick. They look real good together.
But they were put together in Game 4, were they not?
Yeah, I think they've looked pretty good since they've been put together. I don't think that line has been where your issues have been by any stretch. I think that's been a solid line since Dan Heinen came into the lineup. And then Geeky between Pastrnak and DeBrusk. I mean, I know Geeky has recently played well. He had a great game yesterday, but I feel like he's either plateaued or he has another level, and I just don't know how to get him there.
I think he played a great game last night.
Absolutely. And for now, I would leave him in that spot between those two. I think having, DeBrusk and Pastrnak on his wings will help him find at least a smaller level up from where he was before. And then you had Zacha between Brazeau and JVR. And then obviously Lauko, Beecher, Maroon. Now, as we get closer to Friday, the big question is whether or not Brad Marchand can come back into the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if he's healthy enough to play, he will, which will give him a huge boost at home. My question is, where do you put him right now? Who do you take out?
Honestly, I'm going to get hated for this. I'm going to take out Brazeau.
I don't disagree. The only other name that I was really looking at was JVR.
No,
But
because JBR is getting in on the forecheck. He's winning his battles. Justin Brazeau has lost a lot of one-on-one battles, a lot of battles on the wall, and that surprises me.
I was going to say,
So whether
new
whether he's not 100% or what it is, I don't know. But in in a must-win game, you need him to do that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the only other name I was looking at was JVR, but I do feel like JVR has been playing a little bit better, more consistently than Brazeau. Plus, JVR is a better guy to have on your power play. Brazeau doesn't really do much of. I mean, he's been on the power play before, but if you bring Brad Marchand into the lineup, you can lose a Justin Brazeau. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So that's a clear upgrade. And honestly, I think it's a pretty easy substitute in. You swing JVR over to the right side, you put Brad Marchand on the left side, and I mean, we know they don't look at it as first, second, third line, but Marchand, Zacha, JVR isn't a bad line.
No, no, but I don't care. They'll come up with a lineup. They'll see. A lot depends on what's happening in game.
Yeah,
So they'll adjust as they have to. Like,
yeah. I mean, we saw Lori with Peak a bunch.
yeah,
You
they'll
know,
they'll
Brock-
make the necessary. One thing we know with Jim Montgomery is he'll make adjustments on the fly. So I don't care about lineups, what the lines look like. I care about who's in the lineup.
right.
And
He'll make
if you're
adjustments
ask,
on the fly and have 6 guys on the ice at the wrong time.
if you're asking me who comes out if Marchand is good to go, to me it's Justin Brazeau. How Montgomery puts it together, I don't really care because I trust that they will do the job and get it right.
Well,
Or
and when
if
you think
not,
about it,
make adjustments.
yeah, and when you think about it, you have Heinen, Frederick, DeBrusque, JVR, Zaka, Geeky, Lauko, Beecher, and even Maroon, who can all play multiple positions. So the combinations are
Mm-hmm.
fairly endless, and that's what they love about some of these guys that they go for. I mean, Geeky
Yeah.
can play all 3 positions, and you can play
JVR
him.
can play two. Frederick can play all three.
Yep.
DeBrusque can play two. But the only one who can't is Pasternak and Marchand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want Coyle on the wing anymore. I feel like that
No, but
experiment wasn't great, but I mean, he can do it if you need him.
yeah. So, like, it's that's why I don't care what the lines look like because what starts is not what's going to finish. It's almost guaranteed with this team. Almost guaranteed.
And that comes
What I
with
want to know is who are the 12 skaters, the 12 forwards.
yeah, and the ability to do that was set in stone early in the year when everybody's sitting there complaining, why don't we have line consistency? Why don't we have line consistency? Because
Mm-hmm.
you got to be able to juggle things up. And I do
Yeah.
think we've seen Heinen, Coyle, Frederick works really, really well together. But honestly, I think what it comes down to is Coyle and Frederick work well together, and then whoever the third person is can kind of, I mean, they're players in the National fucking Hockey League. They're smart hockey players. Whoever that third person is can figure out how best to play off of that duo.
And Heiden's perfect for that.
Right. I mean, and then you can also go back to a Heinen Zaka Pasternak line if you need a high end skill out there. But I wouldn't do that line against the Panthers team because they're going to get killed out there. And it gets too small for
Yeah.
all
Again,
time.
I'm more concerned about who the 12 forwards are than what the lines are. Because,
Now,
like I said, what they are on the first shift may not be what they are on the second shift.
right. Now, what did you think of Lindholm's game last night?
Liked it. there's not anybody on the team I really didn't like the game from last night. I think as a unit, they went out there and did what they were supposed to do. They slipped a bit in the third, which was reflective in their shots on goal. I think if they stuck to the forecheck that they had in the first and partway through the second, we saw that they got more shots on goal, and that's what they need to finish better. For the most part, they kept guys like Kachuk and Bennett and Reinhardt at bay. Barkov created some stuff, but he's Barkov. He's supposed to.
Right.
um,
As we're talking about the lineup and the line changes, Blue Jays chimes in with a good question here. What's going on with too many men on the ice? In your opinion, basically what's causing it? We get another one. I think they have over 40% of the too many men calls in this playoff run. They've got 6 now?
7.
7.
And last night's was boneheaded, absolutely boneheaded, because there's an angle of the replay that shows Peak was waving at the bench that he was going off. McAvoy was coming on in his place. Florida got the puck and was at the center line and coming down, and Peak was like, oh, I better stay. But McAvoy, because Peak waved, like Peak was at the door and stopped and stayed on the ice. McAvoy jumped over and jumped into the play, and was bad communication. Either Peak's got to find a way to wave McAvoy off and say, no, I'm staying. But by then it's too late when these guys are jumping over.
Probably already got a leg over the boards by that point.
Yeah. And funny enough, the NHL is thinking about instituting a rule where you can't have one leg over the board for next season.
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's to prevent injuries, because your skates shouldn't be up that high, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, if that rule was in effect, we wouldn't have had too many men on the ice last night. Not on that play.
Not on that play. What do you think about putting in place essentially like a line change box, if you will, where there's a box kind of from the doors to the door, from one door to the other, so that allows for a player who's coming off the ice, basically to be able to be safely getting off the ice, whether it's over the boards, whether it's through the door, but they're basically deemed not in the play as long as they don't make a motion to play the puck. So like if someone throws the puck towards the door and it hits them, they're in the box. It's not on, as long as they're getting off the ice and they don't turn to make a play on the puck. You know what I mean?
Well, there's supposed to be an imaginary one, but the opposing team has gotten too smart and now throw the puck in that direction. So,
that's what I mean. If there's an actual drawn line on the ice, like they drew the trapezoid behind the goal, no one said, let's do an imaginary line for the trapezoid. Like imaginary lines don't work because it's just it's not clear. Where I put the line is different. Where you put the line, my 3 feet away is different than your 3 feet away. One of us is actually 3 feet.
Here's how I look. Here's how I look at it, Chris. Sorry to cut you short, but I don't want to go all night about this. It's simple. You said it earlier. These guys are professionals. They're professionals. They should know what too many men. You jump on the ice, the other team knows right away you've got too many men on the ice. Yeah. You can't figure it out for yourself 7 times in 12 games.
Listen, I'm not saying that this line is going to make it so they don't get called 7 times. It's still a problem.
No, it's a problem within the team. It's not a problem within the game.
Do you think it? I think you mentioned it maybe 2 weeks ago now do you think it's a product from all the line changes that we see, the different combinations?
I think it's possible. They're not knowing who the I think the way I termed it at that time is, um, okay, the coach says, okay, Coyle's line, you're up. Okay, not realizing that, hey, just after they come off the ice, I changed that line. And did I tell all the players, hey, you're not going out next shift with Coyle? So and so is going in your place, and you have two guys jumping on or something. We've seen that. I think the other problem is when you have Sacco handling the defense, handling the special teams, and all that. That's a problem. I think, and we go back to one of the first podcasts we had this year where I said, does the lack of a defensive coach, a coach that just coaches the defense, hurt this team?
I mean, I think in some cases it has, because
Yeah.
you're running into too many men and stuff like that. I'd have to look though and see how many times when they've been called for too many men, how many times was it because of the forward group or because of the defensive group? Because if it's not as many, like too many men happens over the course of a season. It just does.
Mhm.
Everybody
Not 7 and 12 games, though.
not 7 and 12 games, but in general, I'd want to look at the whole sample and see how much of this can we put on the defensive unit, how much can we put on the offensive unit. Because if the 7, let's say 7 in the 12 games, if 5 of them are because an extra forward jumped on the ice, then I would say the lack of a defensive coach, irrelevant. Hasn't, I mean, maybe it would help them, but not with this particular problem. If you run into it where, there's confusion and all of a sudden an extra defenseman is jumping on the ice 5 out of 7 times, that's where it becomes a glaring issue.
Well, I can think of 2 that was defensemen. The last two were because I can't remember the other ones.
I was going to say I'd have to go back and look at all of them, but yeah, I mean, there was one.
You'd have to watch all the replays. That's the only way to determine.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, do I think having a defensive coach would help this team? Yeah. I mean, you've got solid defensemen that I think could benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's another thing where I think people forgot throughout the course of the season when people were like, oh, why are they sending Lohrei back down to Providence? Why, keep him up with the big club? There's no defensive coach.
Well, there is, but he's upstairs, right?
Yeah. In general,
you need one. You need one on the bench.
Right.
We talk about how good this defense was a year ago. What happened to Hampus Lindholm? Why isn't Charlie McAvoy playing like Charlie McAvoy? Well, they had John Gruden behind the bench to work with these guys on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I think that.
And when I say nightly basis, I mean within game. Now they got Joe Sacco, who's not a coach of defensemen, and he's handling the defense.
I definitely think that's something they'll look to address in the offseason, though, is the coaching staff in that manner.
They have to.
They absolutely have to. I think we've gotten to a point now where Monty's job is fairly safe, because especially now, even if they get one more win and they lose in Game 7, like, to have forced that Game 7, I mean, it just he has done. He needs to be a little bit better, sure, but they're getting outplayed. They're getting outcoached by a better team. No, not many people looked at them and said they could win this series.
No.
They're expected to lose this series.
One out of 23 ESPN experts said the Bruins would win this series.
1 out of 2 people on this show said the Bruins would win this series too.
One out of one person on this show said either Sheldon Keefe or Jim Montgomery were getting fired after the last series.
2 out of 2 said that.
No, I said it. You agreed.
Yes. You. I was just letting you speak at the time. That's all. So you just got to the point first. But I mean, there's going to be obviously plenty of time to discuss what moves to make in the offseason, who's available, who they should target, where, and all that stuff. But I mean, from what I'm seeing from this defensive, the 6-man unit, because these are the 6 guys that are locked up for next year. So we're getting a preview of what that will look like. I think they'll add a couple names to the mix, but beyond that, this is what you got, and it looks pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's something going on. I'm very interested to hear what injuries players are playing through, though, because there definitely seems to be something going on with McAvoy and Lindholm, but we won't know. It seems all mental, but with those two are kind of the kind of guys that seem to break out of the mental issues quicker, except for when it's because of a physical problem. Remember when
if it's a mental problem, that's another reason to have a coach behind the bench that understands the position.
Oh yeah. Do you think they try to convince Adam McQuaid to leave player development and coach on the bench?
I hope he doesn't. I hope they don't. I love Adam McQuaid here where he is.
I love what he's doing too. It's a curiosity thing for me. I'm sure they'll probably find another. Maybe they're just leaving the spot open for Big Z.
Maybe, but I don't want to take Adam McQuaid out of player development.
I think he's
no
doing
way
a good job over there.
You look at what he did with Alec Regula this year. It's too bad that guy got injured. Too bad he got injured. But you look at the job he did working with him, and it's not just Adam McQuaid, Brian Mouginel and his staff.
Oh yeah.
Frederic Brunet, I know McQuaid has worked a lot with him. Has really took a lot of leaps this season, even though he only played in like 40 games. But that was extra time to work with McQuaid. So I would love McQuaid as an assistant coach, but I don't want to take him out of the position he's in.
No, especially where you have some young, talented defensemen coming up. And we've talked about it a number of times, just the way they work with the players. The story I've told from development camp, working with Christian Konstantinsky off on the side, like they picked this player who they did take a flyer on him. That's what they did. And he's got stuff to work on. But imagine if Brazeau had more time with them down there to work on his skating. Now, I think his skating problems were a little bit overstated, but
no, he's slow.
I was going to say, but he is still slow. He still has work to do. I think people blew it up as this big thing that he was never going to become an NHL player because he couldn't skate at all. And I mean, he's in the needs improvement category for sure, but he's not in the failure category.
But people got to remember this. I mean, they keep calling Brazeau a kid like he's like Matthew Poitras or Mason Lohrei, that 19 to 22 age. He's 26, going to be 27. There isn't a lot of room for improvement when a player reaches that age. What you see is what you get at that point.
And sometimes you just got to throw them in, see what you got, and if it doesn't work, you move on.
Yep.
Now,
exactly.
Speaking of if it doesn't work, you move on. You sent out a tweet yesterday, I think it was yesterday, about whether or not you re-signed Jake DeBrusk. People who were on the let him go train.
And there were a lot of them. There still are.
There still are.
Even though I asked them not to reply to my tweet, they replied.
Of course, because they can't fucking listen. If they did, they would know that Jake DeBrusk should be back at the right number. Has your number changed for Jake DeBrusk at all?
My number, we discussed it on this show, was around 5.3 million. And I gave the breakdown on how I would get to that number. I think it ended up, 4 years, with the fourth year being a 5.9 million.
Yeah, there was in there.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the AAV worked out to 5.3 million. It's got 10 points in 12 games. It's tied with Brad Marchand.
Yeah. And for being quote unquote inconsistent, which we talked about during the regular season, how inconsistent is he really? He gets a point fairly frequently.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said over the course of his career, there's been like 7 times where he's gone more than 3 or 4 games without a point or something like that.
I can't remember. I did the breakdown.
I don't have that particular piece in front of me, but I mean, and here's the thing: he's now proving left side, right side doesn't matter. Lineups don't matter.
Yeah,
he can get his engine going, and he can drive himself. Whether he can drive an entire line is a different story. But he's not Nathan MacKinnon. You're not going to pay him like Nathan MacKinnon either.
Right. But here's the thing. Okay. People are like, where was this guy during the regular season? Well, you know what? As long as you get to the playoffs, you shouldn't care about the regular season. Does this guy bring it in the playoffs? And the answer is yes. And then you ask, well, how much is that worth? I said, well, like players don't get paid in the playoffs, so you're paying them for the regular season.
Right. You got to do your best to give them both salaries at the same time.
Yeah. So, to me, 5.3, 4 years is perfect.
I would absolutely do that. My question to you, and this is a little bit more of a domino effect on that, is if you make that deal, what happens with a guy like Fabian Lysell?
Hold on. London just scored. Jackson Edward whips it. Oh, I think he got deflected. Anyway, I don't know. If we're assuming Lysell is ready next year, I put Jake on the left and Lysell on the right.
On the same line?
No, but
because Jake can play both sides. I don't think Lysell can. I think also you're going to have a lot of people who, after the successful seasons for Lohrei, Beecher, and Poitras, and even Brazeau to some extent, I think you're going to have a lot of people with uneducated opinions screaming and clamoring for like Merkulov to make the team, for Lysell to make the team, and they'll point to this year and be like, see, they were ready. But
yeah, but they percolated in the AHL.
Oh,
especially Brazeau.
I didn't say I was going to be that way.
Something I mentioned in the last show is this season has answered several important questions. Okay. Can Lohrei be a top 4 defenseman?
Yes.
Answer is yes. Can Swayman carry the load? Answer is yes. Is Beecher an NHL player? The answer is yes. I mean, you can even go back to Matthew Poitras at the beginning of the season. Is he an NHL player? Yes. You go up and down the lineup. Is Waterspoon worth keeping around? Yes, they already re-signed him. Who else? Like, do you want to talk about Geeky? All the questions have been answered. Despite
answers.
Yeah, despite what happens in this playoff run, it gave us the answers we were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, even the question we had of does he still have it left in the tank, referring to Milan Lucic. The answer was yes. It just the tank got taken away.
Yeah.
Those questions aren't ones that you think of asking going into a season. Just like Colorado wasn't thinking about asking the question whether or not they were going to lose their best goal scorer in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about a hit to the gut.
Yeah. But that's hockey. That's hockey.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, at this point, there's a lot of people saying Olmark's played his last game in the uniform. Do you think they look to move him in the offseason at this point, or do you think they'll bring the two back?
I think they look to move him.
It's going to be an interesting market for him for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty sure Edmonton's in the market. We know Ottawa's in the market. We know New Jersey's in the market. LA signed their goalie today.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they signed Riddick to 1 year, $1 million. So they got their goalie.
Well, they have, I think all three, Copley, Riddick, and Talbot were all unrestricted free agents. So I think they have that as kind of we need somebody under contract for next season, and they didn't want Talbot anymore.
But we know LA's in the market. So there are teams in the market for a goaltender and for a legit number one goaltender. So,
yeah.
It's just convincing Allmark to waive. And
he still has 15 teams, I think it is, or is it a 16?
I think it's 16 teams next year.
That he can refuse to go to.
No, that a 16-team list he has to supply. It goes up by one.
Okay. I just couldn't remember if his was the teams that he wanted to go to and he was okay with it, or the don't trade me there list.
Yeah, it goes up by one on July 1st. So,
I mean, you still have about half the league to work with. The question is which half of the league? But even then, it's a lot easier to ask the guy to move in the off season and wait.
And you can always convince a guy. You can always. I think I told the story here a few shows ago about Brian Burke. In his book, I told you to read his book about the Thomas Caberlet trade.
Yes, and we got Kevin jumping in. Hello to you, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Yes, I remember you telling that story. Great story. And I do want to get that Brian Burke book. So
yeah, you should read it. It's a great book.
But there's ways to get folks to waive.
Oh, yeah. There's only 2 times in the history of the NHL that I know of a player that outright refused to waive their no trade or no movement clause. And that's Matt Sundin and Torrey Krug.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that the Torrey Krug one was just because he only has a modified list, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he had a full no trade that at that time when he
wouldn't
waive to Philly. What's that?
You think they look to move him again?
Oh, St. Louis has got to do something. If I'm Boston, really, I'm looking if I'm looking at St. Louis to make a deal, I'm looking to get Robert Thomas.
Oh my God, yes. I would love to try to get him, but what would it cost you is the question.
I don't know.
I feel like a player like that, because he's already signed, is going to cost you way more than it's worth giving up.
I'm a big fan of Matt Patra. For St. Louis, it would probably start with him. Not that Thomas is old, but they're going to want to start rebuilding and getting younger. Patra would be the guy I'd be asking for, and I would trade Patra for Thomas.
I don't think there's enough of an age gap there, especially where Thomas is already locked up and he's proven NHL ready. I don't I don't shut that deal down. I try to make the best of what you can out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you might be able to get, like Nick Leddy as part of it too, and just kind of bolster your defense a little bit. Someone that's not overly cost effective or on the cap on the defensive side, but
We're getting off to 2-0. Oh my God, they missed. Sorry, I'm
what do
watching
we got
the
for a score? 1-0.
1-0 London.
Oh boy.
It looks like all 2-0 now. It looks like all three CHL finals are going to be sweeps.
Really?
And then they're all off to the Memorial Cup.
There we go. Let's see. Hold on. I'm just reading what looks like a spam message here. Yeah. We won't pull that one up. But yeah, like you said, we got to get through games on Friday. They just got to replicate the physicality, get pucks on the net. I think Ty Anderson had a statistic about what their record was when they shoot more than 20 shots on goal in this postseason.
Do you remember what it was?
It was. Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
I don't. It's probably 6-0.
It was something very drastic like that. Yeah, it was like 6-1 or 7-1 or something like that. Like it's ridiculous. And if you look at all the ones where they've lost, they've had less than 20 shots in almost every single. I think in every single one of them, except for that one or two.
Yeah, I think Kevin's wrong there with
What did he
that
say
comment.
here?
Can you put it up?
Why did the Bruins have to escape with a win last night? Why prolong this? They've been outplayed this entire series.
I don't think they were outplayed in game one. I don't think they were outplayed last night. As a matter of fact, I think they did an excellent job through at least the first two periods on the forecheck, changing their breakouts, and keeping Florida to the perimeter.
I mean, we saw that with Toronto too. There were plenty of times where they kept the puck outside, to the boards and didn't let Toronto get the looks they were looking for. And when they were able to get a puck through to Swayman, it was a nice, easy save that he could either hang on to and get the whistle or deflect out to the side. And this is one of those ones where, for the most part, Jeremy Swayman's rebound control has been fantastic. There have been times when if you look at what Bobrovsky does on one end and Swayman on the other, there have been times where you look at what Bobrovsky does and you sit there and go, what the hell is he doing? Now, speaking of which, too, what did you think of them stopping the game early in the first period yesterday? Because when Bobrovsky didn't have the puck, he comes out to the top of his crease, takes it off the chest. What do you think happened there?
Sorry, wait?
It was like 5 minutes into the game. They got the errant whistle in the Florida end when Lindholm
I don't know. I never try to guess what referees do. As I've explained 1,000 times, things at full speed at ice level are not what we see on TV. So I don't know. They must have seen something that wasn't visible to the camera.
I think, because I went back and I started rewatching the game earlier today, and I wanted to pay attention to that one. If you look at where the official comes in when he kind of checks on Bobrovsky, he's coming in from kind of that left, the face-off dot to the left of Bob. And I think what happened was he lost sight of the puck. He saw him go up and kind of cup his chest, if you will, like he caught it, and he froze there for a minute because he didn't know where the puck was. And between how high the puck was, potentially hitting him in the mask, I didn't hear it, but that doesn't mean the official didn't hear something hit and rattle the mask. Between that and losing sight of the puck, because he blew the whistle very quickly. Like, it wasn't one of those he waited 5 seconds.
It's irrelevant. He saw something we did not see.
I think that's why he blew it dead, because it was
Yeah.
a matter of potentially pucked it ahead, lost sight of the puck, possibly thought that the goalie still had it, and so you blow the whistle dead at that point, or you blow the play dead at that point. Kevin says they weren't outplayed in game one because Florida had rust. Last night was their best.
So they were outplayed then, Kevin. Yeah. Like, you're mincing words. Doesn't matter why, but they were still outplayed.
I still think Florida should have won that game last night. Well, they didn't.
I'll get to his next comment because he was late coming in.
Let's see. It says, I think McAvoy's goal last night was goaltender interference, but wasn't called because of a mistake in game 4 where that should have been goaltender.
You're wrong, Kevin. I already explained to you why it wasn't goaltender interference. But you were late, as usual.
He was probably eating.
Yeah, waiting for his
probably eating pizza or something.
No, he called what is it? Uber Eats and had McDonald's delivered. A double Big Mac and a fillet of fish. I know. Oh, and a large fry and chocolate milkshake. That's what Kevin eats. Kevin, I'll tell you why it wasn't goaltender interference real quick. If you watch it, okay, Heinen bumped him, and Bobrovsky had time to reset and even get square to the shot. And that makes it no longer goaltender interference.
He goes, I ate chicken on the grill with potatoes and corn. Thank you very
bullshit. Much. Uber Eats and
McDonald's.
Hold on.
And then I got a milkshake afterwards.
Oh, okay. And a burrito.
Yeah, right. And then he got the burrito too.
Do you have Taco Bell in the States?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he got Uber Eats to go to Taco Bell. You have Uber Eats, right?
Oh yeah, Uber Eats, Grubhub.
Was either McDonald's or Taco Bell?
No, he had the burrito delivered. He just hasn't eaten it. He'll eat that later. Although
believe it.
Taco Bell is open late, so he can order it fresh later. Kevin, we love you, my man. Hope you're doing all right, though.
Kevin comes in just to stir me up.
All right. He says, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I'll go back.
It is, Kevin. Bobrovsky thought the interference was the stick being knocked out of his hand, but it was his own teammate that knocked the stick out. It wasn't Heinen. Heinen made contact. You can clearly see from the behind the net replay, Bobrovsky lifting his skate, planting it, and getting set and square for the shot. He had time to reset and make the save.
Yeah, I saw it. Once I saw that replay, like I said, Kevin, I said it earlier. I was Leonardo DiCaprio in the chair meme, just pointing at my TV, going, right there. That's not goaltender interference because he reset. But, it screwing up the last call doesn't help the optics of that one. So he said, wait, it wasn't Heinen who knocked the stick out because that's what I was
going
off.
Watch the overhead view. Watch the overhead view, and that's why it took so long for the refs to make sure is they wanted to make sure two things: that Bobrovsky reset, which he did, and that it wasn't Heinen who knocked the stick out, which it wasn't. That's why I said earlier, when it started to take so long, I felt more confident that it wasn't being called back.
Well, he says if it wasn't Heinen who knocked the stick out, then he retracts everything he said.
Watch the overhead view.
You might have to watch it a couple times, so have your finger on the rewind button because I think they only showed it a zillion times. So, I agree. I think they made the right call there. I mean, I'm looking forward to the game on Friday. Don't get me wrong. I'm still nervous. just because I don't want this season to end. But we got one game going on tonight, I believe. Tonight is one game.
You know what? I honestly never even looked, Chris, because I'm watching.
You got the
This one.
So, but do you have any other things majorly that you want to touch on? I know we're about 7:30 right now. Typically, we go till 8.
Yeah, you know what?
A couple games to go over. So,
one thing I want to ask, because being up here in Canada, and anybody who's listening can comment, because I'm hearing a lot of different feedback from the coverage and the broadcast in the States. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on what it's been like.
Real quick, Kevin, wrapping it up, says, interesting. I thought it was Heinen. I was flabbergasted last night when it wasn't overturned. I said to myself that it has to be a makeup call. Again, optics on that one. It's interesting when you bring up the broadcast because down here in the States, the games are on two different networks depending on the night.
They are?
Yes, you have a TNT broadcast, which has a myriad of different guys, including like Paul Bissonnette, Anson Carter, Henrik Longquist. I'm blanking on some of the other ones there. And then you have
ESPN. But I thought they were splitting series.
No,
like one took one series, one took another series.
That's the thing, is that's how it was in the first round. But game 1 was on TNT/Max.
Yeah.
And games 2 and 3 were on ESPN. And then 4 was on Max again, I believe. Like it all depends on the night.
That's gotta suck then.
Oh, it does. It royally sucks. It's interesting though because you have different people watching different games, and so like last night you had the ESPN broadcast being able to recount what happened the last game with the Coyle goal and all that stuff because you had a different panel doing the game. So, for instance, when the Coyle goal happened in game 4, it was very clear that the color commentator, and I forget who was behind the glass. I think it was I want to say Panger was behind the glass. Neither one of them knew what that rule was. And so they literally pulled out the rule book. They found the rule and started talking about it as they were doing the review. And so when they make that call and they make it incorrectly, they're confused and they just kind of go, all right, well, we got to move on. There's more stuff happening. And they go back to the game.
But isn't TNT the one that has the retired referee on? Or is that ESPN?
That's ESPN. I think they both have a consultant, an official, rules.
A former official, a referee. So
Kevin Quick says, I had Florida in 5 to start the series. I don't see Boston winning 2 more games here against this team unless Florida beats themselves.
No, you know what, Kevin, I had Florida win the series as well, but Boston can win 2 more. If they play like the first 2 periods of last night and Swayman does his thing, they can win the next 2 games. I'm not giving them much of a chance, but they can do it.
Yeah, Kevin said last 2 games were on TBS and Max. I might have mixed up which games they were, but yeah, it's TBS, Max, and
so just to go back to that,
those were all Turner networks.
They didn't have the official come on and explain what was going on.
No, not on that one. They didn't have.
So why have the consultant on staff? Like, I can understand.
I'm not sure TNT, not TNT. I'm not sure ESPN has a former referee like always on staff. Like if they have a big night, like then they'll bring someone in for it. Because the last game, they talked to someone. I think it was the TNT broadcast. So when it's on TNT, it's on TNT, TBS, and Max because those are all owned by Turner.
Right.
So, and that's the one but they also have the panel that includes, like I said, Anson Carter, Henrik Lundqvist, Colby Armstrong has been on it. Paul Bissonnette is on there. So, like, they have a lot more people that they can go over it with as well. So I think part of that is they also have an official person on who's reachable. I don't get how they do it or why they don't do it on one of the networks. But like I said, it's confusing in some ways. It's interesting in others. It just, and then there are nights where one network. I mean, really, at this point, they're all on one network every night. So tonight, notwithstanding, actually, I can pull it up. I just got to remember where I put my phone before we sat down. I might not even have it with me in this room. Nope, I don't think I do.
Oh, 3-0.
But oh no, I have it right here. It was in a shadow. So
They've
tonight,
scored. Hold on. They've scored, I think, 23 goals in 3 games. Three already this period.
Kevin said, this was in your comment about winning 2 more games. Okay, can be agreeable with that. If Swayman is a world beater and they can pour shots on, they could get it done. I will say this though: if they win this series, they're going to the Cup Finals. Let's get through the series first, Kevin.
Yes.
You got to get to Game 6 and then Game 7 first. So as I was saying, tonight's game is on ESPN, and then tomorrow both games are on Turner Networks.
But the Bruins play Friday.
Friday's games are still to be determined. Saturday's games, anything past Friday and beyond is to be determined.
Well, in Canada, they're all on Sportsnet.
Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends. Sometimes they're pro Bruins and other times they're not. But I'll tell you, they were speaking high praise of Swayman. They were speaking high praise of McAvoy.
Down here, there's been a lot of Lindholm slander down here.
They haven't done that. They've said they really need him, but they haven't really slandered him.
Let's see. Kevin says, yeah, but you heard it here. But I'm telling you, you heard it here first. If they win this series, they will go to the Cup Finals. I'm not playing the games or on the team, so I don't have to get through anything first. You got to get to the burrito first.
He ate the burrito. I can tell with that comment.
So, what other questions do you have, though?
None really. I'm just sitting here enjoying hockey that isn't NHL. I've got 3 World Championship games today recorded that I got to go back and watch. Oh, Kevin. So
TMI, Kevin. TMI.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
With some of his comments, though, he's always full of hot air.
Yeah. Kevin, put on the hockey game. Oh, my God. What a slash. He slashed him 3 times, baseball style, on the wrist.
And no call.
Oh, yeah, he got called.
Oh, okay. The way you were reacting, I was like, oh, they must not have called it. So
Edward's going to kick somebody's ass now.
Kevin says, I really hope Dallas makes it to the finals. I mean, that was a gut
London, Oshawa.
I know. That's the one that you're looking at. Are you watching any of the other series at all in
Not
the
tonight.
series?
Tonight
There's only one.
after this is the WHL final that could be a sweep too. So
Tonight, Dallas has a chance to put Colorado away. So
as much as I hate to say it, it'll probably happen.
yeah.
Well, I do have a question for you. What do you do now if you're Edmonton in net?
Kevin wants to know how to watch it. Is there a paywall?
Of course, there's a paywall. I don't know. Somebody might be streaming it illegally. Google it. That's what Google's for. Or use Go or whatever it's called. What's that other
I don't know.
browser? Go or something like that. Oh my God. You know what? This guy, Easton Cowan, the Leafs drafted last year in the first round. I thought, my God, what a waste. They drafted him with the Bruins pick.
Who's this?
And I thought, Easton Cowan.
Oh.
Toronto. I thought, what a waste of a pick. The guy's a second rounder. Boy, is he making me eat crow.
Kevin said you buy it, he'll watch it, and he wants to know if you meant Duck Duck Goose. That's a browser I haven't heard of, but it might be.
I don't know.
You were asking about Edmonton, though?
Yeah, well, Edmonton. What do you do with net?
How do you go back to Skinner after you pull him?
I don't know.
I mean, what did it for me is there were comments that were being made about the way Picard played that just tells me the team has no confidence in Skinner whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
And it's one of those things where, just kind of circling it back to Boston, it's not that they can't go to Linus Ullmark. It's why would you do that to the team in front of him? Because the way that Jeremy Swayman is playing right now gives them a confidence that anything that gets through, he's going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
The guy literally is stopping more than 9 out of 10.
You know what? And that's why the Bruins do such a good job boxing out for him, because they know he's got their back. Because they did a great job last night of boxing out and letting Swayman see the pucks.
Right. And that's why I go, how can you go back to Jeff Skinner if you're Edmonton? Because the team...
Stuart Skinner, not Jeff.
Right, Jeff Skinner, whatever. How do you go back to him? Because the team, just the way they were talking about Picard being in net, it's a completely different feeling in the room. And if they want to have any shot, they cannot sit there and go back and be like, oh, we got him again. And I'm certainly not trusting Campbell right now. I know he stayed in the AHL mostly because of cap reasons at that point, but he hasn't seen NHL action in long enough that you got to stick with Picard. Now, I would put Picard and Campbell on the bench for the next game. Take Skinner out of the equation. Because
you almost have to.
Yeah, because if Picard gives up a softie early in the game and you sit there and go, shit, we shouldn't have done this, you have to be able to go to someone with NHL playoff experience, and that's Campbell, because at least then you don't deflate the rest of the locker room because, oh, God, we got Skinner going back in the game. Kevin says, is that another hint you're giving us that the Bruins are trading with the Ducks at the draft?
No, it'll be New Jersey, Kevin. Mark my words, it will be New Jersey. Something you said made me think of Evan Bouchard, which brings me back to Hampus Lindholm. And something I missed until we got into that Edmonton talk when you asked me what I thought of Hampus Lindholm last night. How about that 3-minute shift at the end
Oh,
of the game?
I think that's going to go way under the radar because there's a
It,
lot of people who have made up their mind about Hampus Lindholm and they don't pay attention
mm,
to stuff like that anymore.
that he doesn't get hard minutes, but he gets a lot of hard minutes.
All he gets is hard minutes now.
Yeah. That was 3 minutes against Barkov, Kachuk, Reinhardt, Bennett.
Yeah, real quick, Kevin says, I applaud Montgomery for sticking with Swayman here. He easily could have given in to the noise of sticking to a rotation, but he went with his hot hand and is allowing him to play through it all. Yeah, and he's the one who started the whole we're going to stick with the rotation.
Well, in all fairness, though, Montgomery did what he said he was going to do. He rotated the first 2 games and then went with the hot hand.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that hand is still hot.
Yeah.
And Kevin also added, Lindholm has been a horse. He absolutely has been. He is probably the most underrated player in this city for this team right now, Hampus Lindholm. Because Kevin, I know you hear it too. The hate for Hampus Lindholm is so goddamn high. I don't think people even watch him when he's on the ice. They just wait for him to make a mistake and then they point at that and go, "See, I told you." But they ignore the 3-minute shift where he boxes out. He's taking
Block
the block,
shots.
blocking shots. He's out there for 3 fucking minutes.
He threw a big hit behind the net.
And
Yeah.
but he whiffs on one clear that someone else gets for him, and he sucks. I mean,
Oh, well. It is what it is.
and the thing is he's the one I want in those minutes out on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want Lohrei out there yet. I'm sure over time he'll get better and you'll be okay with him being out there eating some of those minutes, but it just, let's see. Kevin says, I wish Lindholm never had the point total he had last season.
And that's bang on right there.
Now everyone thinks that's who he is. That was an anomaly in his career. He is a steady minute eater who is going to give you solid defensive play with offense sprinkled in.
Bang on, Kevin.
Right. No, I mean, and people get on Brandon Carlo for the same thing. He doesn't produce enough offense. Well, that's why they're paired together, because they're not an offensive production pair. That's why ideally you balance them out and you put Lindholm with McAvoy and Carlo with Lohrei. But that's more of a thing to look at doing next year. Right now, you're playing to win games at all costs.
Exactly.
And if that means doing a 3-minute shift for Hampus Lindholm, then fucking do it. Regardless of what his output is.
Who was the first one to give him a tap on the rear end when they finally got a whistle? Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah, because he recognizes it.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Uh-oh. Edward's going to kick somebody's head in. Let him go. Fucking refs, man.
Kevin says,
I'll tell you.
Lindholm Carlo is such a stalwart defensive unit when thrown out there. That's who you throw out there against guys like McDavid.
Yeah. Exactly. That's who you threw out against Matthews.
Yeah. Didn't mean to cut you off with Kevin's comment there.
Oh, that's okay. Fucking referees never let the guy go. I tell you, he would love to be in this series right now because Matthew Tkachuk would be eating his fucking mouth guard.
Yeah, Kevin, according to the I Know Nothing crew, Lindholm is soft. I hate hearing that. I mean, think about what this team is going through right now with everything that they're getting from, Barkov and Tkachuk, Luosterainen. Like, I'm going to try and pull up pull up their sizes real quick because these are not small men. These are big bodies coming in and clamping on them.
Barkov is huge, man. Oh, Oshawa scored.
None of these guys are small. And the ones that are a little bit smaller are, they're stocky. Let's see. Here we go. Sam Bennett is listed at 6'1", 195.
Edward scored.
Jackson Edward?
Yeah, it was in his own net, though.
Oh. Lovely. Hell, even Bobrovsky is 6'2", 183.
Yeah, Bobrovsky's not small.
Let's see. Who else we got? Gustav Forsling.
Why are they reviewing it? He shot it into his own net. Okay. You've got to hear this. Jackson Edward backhands it into his own net, and they're reviewing for goaltender interference.
Oh, lovely. Because, of course. Real quick, Kevin also says, I think the reason why I'm not mad about where the Bruins are in this series is because I didn't expect them to win or be here right now. This is all sprinkles on the frosting for me. It's a good outlook to have, Kevin. Dom and I have discussed it before on the show, how this season's already been a success. I think you came in shortly after we were talking about all the questions that got answered this season. How's that goaltender interference going?
They're still reviewing it. And the thing here is the NHL helps them with their video review. So I want to see
either way.
I want to see exactly. The funny thing is Edwards backhands it into his own net, but I could see this being called back for goaltender interference because Michael Simpson, the goaltender, was actually interfered with.
Oh, that's funny.
He actually had the save, and then Richie bumps him and knocks the puck out, and Edward goes to clear it and backhands it right into his own net.
So the interference happened before the goal in the sense that there was a little bit of a sequence after it.
Yeah, but the goalie had the puck in his glove, and got interfered with and knocked out of his glove.
Let's see. Kevin says, we've been saying all year this is a transition year. You either have no idea what's going on with this team or you're a moron to not be happy with what this team's accomplished so far. Excuse me.
Kevin, there's a lot of people unhappy.
I mean, I'm thrilled with the season that we've had. I think this
team
is capable of winning this series because if you look at how they've lost the games they've lost in this series, they've gotten away from their game. They've gotten away from what has made them successful. And that's why I sit here and say it should have been better if they lose this series because they lost it, not so much Florida won it. Mike says, thoughts on Maurice tirade on the bench concerning everything okay, or is it panicking? I would say it's not an issue given the fact that they went out and tic-tac-toe scored like within 45 seconds.
Yeah, it's not an issue. He was just trying to wake up his team.
It fucking worked. They scored.
Yeah, but Boston bounced right back, right? That was the key. Were they going to melt down like they have, or were they going to bounce back? And they bounced back. Question answered.
Right. This is one of the few times where they did bounce back. There have been plenty of times where they've let that and they've just taken it and rolled over. Kevin adds in losing your top two centers and having a transition of leadership, also losing other significant pieces in Hall and Foligno. Yeah, this is damn good for me. Yeah, I mean, Think about the roster they had last year. Think about the roster they have this year. Significant downgrade in talent.
Okay, here comes the call. It's a goal. I couldn't see how they could wave it off if you shot the puck into your own net.
Yeah. And as I'm scrolling through on my other screen over here, and I keep seeing this replay of a clip. PK Subban went on a show on ESPN and made the line and basically said that Marchand had that hit coming to him.
Yep.
Because of how he's played in his career. I mean,
nobody has that coming to them.
Yeah,
PK Subban should know better.
Coming from PK Subban, that's just a weak thing. And also, what? So now we have a free shot on Bennett because he has it coming to him. Okay, give us our cheap shot.
Tell you, knowing PK Subban's dad, when PK Subban's father hears about it and his stupid comment, PK is going to hear about it. Guaranteed.
My question is, when does it end with that argument? Let's just eliminate all the rules and make it a complete and total MMA free-for-all out on the ice, and maybe someone gets a goal.
PK Subban played the game. He should know better than that. Like, for crying out loud.
Yeah, he said things like it was a long time coming. Like, I just don't. I can't get behind that.
No.
Especially once you see the second angle, where it's clear the butt end of his stick is still in his hand, and I mean, that adds to the hit. It's not like it's softened or anything.
If it were me, like, what network is he on? ESPN?
He can be part of ESPN, yeah.
Okay, so if I was running ESPN, he would be off my broadcast immediately. You do not wish harm on another player. To say that he had this coming is wishing harm on another player, and he'd be done. And it's probably in his contract that he can't make comments like that.
Let's see. Kevin says it's a game Friday at 1. That's what Bleacher Report is telling me. No, there's been no time announced for it. NHL.com, NHL app all still says TBD. I wouldn't listen
to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. It all depends on the Dallas game tonight.
Yeah, because if Dallas wins, then
if Dallas wins, it'll be 8 o'clock. If Dallas loses, it'll be 7 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, that's what you get for trusting Bleacher Report.
Oh, my God, Kevin. That's like reading Dom.Hockey.
No. At least that has some intelligent thought to it.
I haven't read an intelligent thing on there yet.
No number reports or anything like that. No projections that are within 5.
Nope. It's all stupid.
Either. That's like watching this show to get information on the Bruins. I don't know what I'm talking about. Neither do you. I don't know why we do this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a good point. He said, well, I didn't trust it, so that's why I asked. I saw it and said, that doesn't sound right. Why the fuck would they do a 1 o'clock game on a Friday?
That isn't a holiday. I can understand Monday that's a holiday.
Yeah. Yeah, like they've done, or like, I mean, think about when we see 1 o'clock games: Sunday, Saturday, holidays.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be stupid.
I think you should report Bleacher Report for incorrect reporting.
Wouldn't that be libel?
Oh.
Reporting for libel. We have hit the 8 o'clock hour. Kevin says exactly my thoughts. I was like, since when does the NHL have matinee games in the playoffs? Well, sometimes on Sundays if they have a bunch of games to do. Never mind, I've seen them before.
Sometimes on Saturdays too, in the first round. Yeah, I don't think you'll see any afternoon games going forward.
No,
When
they're
does
all
ABC has the final, right?
that is part of the Disney ESPN set of networks.
Okay,
I
but TNT had it last year, right? The
I don't
final?
recall offhand. I think so. I think this year they're
Because
supposed to be on.
they alternate years on the final, right?
I think it's supposed to be the ABC network this year. I don't know if that means they'll have it on ABC, ESPN, and or ESPN. Because that's the other thing too is these games that ESPN has, they're on ESPN. They're not available on ESPN Plus
Why?
because ESPN is dumb. You need to have some form of a cable subscription to have the network ESPN. They don't simultaneously broadcast on both.
Oh my God, that's confusing.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
That is so. I am just so glad that I can call up my cable company and say, "Give me the Super Sports Pack," and I got Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL Center Ice, OHL Action Pack, NFL football, college basketball, college football. The only thing they don't have is college hockey for $43 a month.
Damn. I'll take that package.
Yeah,
Cable down here is
$43
ridiculous.
$43 a month. I can get 20 hockey games a night. I can get every damn baseball game that I never watch. I can get every damn basketball game that I never watch. Every NFL game that I never watch. The college sports I do watch.
The college hockey, the NCAA is on ESPN Plus. I don't know what
TSN Plus has it here.
I don't know what the archives look like as far as being able to go back, but I could probably go back and watch some of the, like the Providence games, the BU
Can
game.
you?
I'm sure I can go back to a certain point. Mike adds in, hopefully the power play makes a difference in game 3. Yes, as in hopefully we get some and we can stop the Panthers when they get theirs.
But I think Mike makes a good point because we had 3 power plays yesterday?
Yeah, we
and
went
it
over.
looked terrible. It looked terrible.
It looked bad.
Absolutely terrible.
Season, you're looking at putting Shattenkirk back in there, but it's not, so he stays. Kevin says, I think Florida and New York is going to be a great series. Well, let's see if Florida actually gets there, because I think New York-Boston sounds like a damn good series to me, too.
Or so does Carolina-Boston.
Carolina-Boston, that sounds like it would be good. Tell me Florida-Carolina wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Watch them kill themselves.
I would rather see Boston against either one, but, I can root against Florida. But we are in the 8:00 hour here for our second show of the week. We'll have to connect and see based off of what happens in Game 6 when we want to do our next show. But
I think, are you available Saturday?
What time is the game? Depends on what time, but I can try to be.
We don't know what time the game Friday is. It's either 7 or 8. And we don't know if there'll be a game Sunday.
Yeah. I'm down to shoot to try to do a show on Saturday.
I can do Saturday evening. Saturday during the day, I've got my grandson, so it'd be kind of hard to sit here and try and talk to you guys with him. Grandpa, shoot me with the Nerf gun.
Kevin says I'm free Saturday. He checked my schedule, so yeah. I should be able to make something work on Saturday. It might be 6:30, somewhere in that range, 7:00.
Yeah,
but we'll have one game to go over, and hopefully it won't be a eulogy.
Right. I don't like eulogies, although I have delivered them in the past.
Oh boy. Well, do you have any final thoughts on the series, the season, anything so far? Well, Kevin, if you're free Saturday, come on the damn show.
Yeah.
You're the one who doesn't accept a link to join. That's on you, my friend. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's put it a different way. Dom, we cannot answer those questions. We have to go to the source. We have to put Kevin in front of a microphone.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Only Kevin can answer the question why he's not on the show.
That's right. So, Kevin, we will send you the link, and you better be here Saturday. I know your schedule's free.
Yeah,
I'll
he just
even be okay. I will even be okay with letting you eat a burrito on the air.
We don't want you in front. I'll try and eat it. You don't want me in front of a microphone.
That's why we'll let you have a burrito.
Yeah, every time you get a stupid thought, we'll tell you to take a bite.
Yeah.
And then you won't be able to resist. Oh, he says he's free to watch. Well, he can eat when you're done with eating the burrito, then you come on the show.
Yes.
So, but I know it's getting late for tonight, so I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. All the comments, Mike, Kevin, everyone. I know I'm forgetting some names in there, but just everyone who's commented. Hopefully, we can see everybody. Matt, I know he made some comments earlier. Blue Jay, he's been around before. Want to thank everybody for jumping in. We appreciate it. We want more comments as much as we can get. So hopefully everybody gets a chance to enjoy the game on Friday. And as far as I'm concerned, my last thought, go Bees.
Go be